Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you got some good plans for the weekend. But let's talk a little bit about transgender boxing, shall we? Because I made a video some months ago saying that I find that the idea of a transgender female, that is to say, a man who has quote unquote become a female fighting, a real female, or as they call them, cisgender, which is something I despise. I hate that prefix, but I find that repulsive. I find it offensive, and I got a lot of flack and lost a few subscribers over that little rant of a video, but I don't apologise for it at all. It actually, I think it's dangerous and just a very sort of horrible misogynistic concept. So go and have a look at that video. I made it several months ago. But the WBC has come out and made statements regarding transgender boxing. And they've got a statement, World Boxing Council statement / guidelines regarding transgender athletes' participation in professional combat sports. And they divide it into 5 segments. Okay. So I'm going to read through these to start with. And just to sort of, lay the table, so to speak, and then we'll sit down and have a proper meal. We'll talk about the actual policy of the WBC, what they're going to do about transgender boxing in a moment, okay? But this statement, these guidelines are as follows. Number 1, the World Boxing Council, WBC, firmly and unequivocally supports transgender rights and recognises the gender identity of an individual athlete. The commitment is grounded in the WBC values of inclusion. So inclusion, most of us, in the spirit of fairness, we say, yes, inclusion is a good thing. Come on in, sit down. Yeah, you can join in. Yeah, come on, join. Of course, it can be problematic when you've got an issue like this for reasons that we'll go into a little bit later. But yeah, inclusion is a pretty good value for most people to have. That sense of justice, that sense of fairness, no problem. Number 2, the WBC shall continue to champion to protect transgender individuals against discrimination at their workplace, in employment, education, and access to healthcare. Again, opposed to discrimination. Most people would say, yeah, that's a really good value to have, a good virtue. Human beings, human civilization has made progress over the centuries by opposing discrimination. And, we actually take for granted an awful lot of the things that we have which help us avoid discrimination in the workplace. So now the question there, of course, is that some people feel that maybe giving transgender people certain rights would take away from the rights of others, namely women. So women have their own spaces, bathroom facilities and so on. Why should men be allowed to, or who are perceived to be men, why should they be allowed to impose on them? Why should they be allowed to enter women's sports and dominate women's sports? And, we've seen it with swimming, to a lesser extent weightlifting. There was a transgender weightlifter at the last Olympics. And a lot of women feel that, transgender men coming into their sport is robbing them of a chance to build a legacy, enjoy their sport, win things and so on and so forth. It's not fair, in other words. It's just not fair. And lack of fairness, of course, is the polar opposite to all concepts of inclusion or, being anti-discriminatory. But again, that's a debate, a bigger debate. We'll stick to the boxing for now. So, number 3, the WBC is committed to its value of fair competition. A combat sport bout should occur between 2 equally matched competitors. At present, and this is an important thing, at present, there is no consensus whether a bout between a transgender woman against a biological woman, cisgender if you prefer, is a fair bout between 2 equally matched competitors. There is no consensus whether a bout between a transgender woman against a cisgender woman is a fair bout between 2 equally matched competitors. Again, that's a very major point, ultimately, fairness has to have a level playing field for everyone. If you don't have that, it's not fair. So that's what we're talking about, fairness. Okay. Metrics such as testosterone level less than 10 nanomoles per litre in isolation is inadequate to ensure fairness at the time of the bout. So they're saying that you can fiddle with testosterone levels, but it still don't necessarily make it fair. Okay, they're saying it's inadequate is the word that the WBC use. And it can be argued that by the time a transgender woman combatant launches her professional career, she's already gone through male puberty, thus conferring her with the musculature and bony structure of a male. So a transgender woman combatant may have an unfair advantage over her cisgender woman, her cisgender woman combatant. So again, it's not fair. There's definitely evidence to suggest that, people who are, real men, if you like, I hate the words, I hate the prefix cisgender, but okay, I'll use it, cisgender men are ultimately, the muscle mass is different, the bone structure is different, and so on and so forth, and they are, they just have an unfair advantage. It's as simple as that. That's what the WBC is saying. Okay, so number 4, the WBC is committed to its value of fair competition. A combat sport should occur between two equally matched competitors. But actually, I've been through this already. Yep. So we're actually on to number 5 now. Combat sports such as boxing are unique since every punch thrown at the head is thrown with the intention of winning by causing a knockout, which is nothing but a concussive head injury. Okay, it's good, true. Resulting these sports carry the English isn't great here, but these sports carry an exceedingly high risk for both acute and chronic neurological injuries. Okay, this looks like a translation actually, so it's some of the language is a little bit cockeyed, but yes, absolutely true. Boxing, it's about concussions, it's about clobbering people, it's about, it's just about battering people. Let's be honest. I mean, we can talk about the art of it, and we can talk about the beautiful moves that individual fighters make, but ultimately it is about people whacking each other in the head, and we all like knockouts. Let's not kid ourselves. So yeah, it's a very, very dangerous sport. Boxers have died during a bout or in an immediate aftermath due to traumatic brain injuries, such as an acute subdural hematoma. And they just go on to talk about the injuries. I won't read it all, but the WBC advocates two equally skilled and matched athletes competing in the cage or ring, on a level playing field, and to keep matches fair, competitive, entertaining, most importantly, safe for all combatants, or as safe as possible, because ultimately boxing and combat sports are not safe by definition. At present level of scientific knowledge, the WBC consensus is that allowing transgender athletes to compete raises serious health and safety concerns. Let's repeat that line. It's very important. At present, the level of scientific knowledge, the WBC consensus is that allowing transgender athletes to compete raises serious health and safety concerns. There's a little footnote. The WBC will keep researching with the utmost professionals in healthcare to have a greater understanding of the matter, and will keep looking for fairness in the sport and equality within the sport. Now, reading through those 5 things, there were actually 5 of them, but 2 of them are the same, which is why I started to read what I'd already spoken about. I'm looking at this, number 3 and number 4 are essentially the same thing, virtually the same, the same phrasing, the same everything. So I think someone's made a bit of a mistake here, not just with the translation, but with the, there's actually only 4 points. So we've only been through 4 points, but you get the general gist. You get where the WBC stand. Okay. Now, with all that in mind, Mauricio Sulaiman of the WBC, president of the WBC, he elaborated on that, and the WBC have now talked about having a transgender discipline, if you like, a version of boxing that is inclusive in the sense that the WBC will sanction it, the rules will be the same, but this will solely be for transgender athletes. Okay, so Sulaiman said, in boxing, a man fighting a woman must never be accepted regardless of gender change. There should be no grey area around this, and we want to go into it with transparency and the correct decisions. Woman to man or man to woman transgender change will never be allowed to fight a different gender by birth. Okay, it could not be clearer. And, you know, Sulaiman gets a lot of flack, but he's been very transparent here. Okay, transgender rights, Sulaiman goes on. Excuse me, let me actually find the relevant bit. Just a moment. Yeah, we do not yet know the numbers that are out there. Now, he's talking about the amount of transgender boxers that may or may not exist. But we're opening a universal registration in 2023 so that we can understand the boxers that are out there, and we'll start from there. So once they've discovered and done their research, the transgender men and women have stepped up and decided they want to be pro fighters. The WBC will then, you know, assess it, go through the weight divisions, you know, and create weight divisions in the transgender version of boxing, the transgender discipline of boxing. Let me see what else is written here. Yeah, at the moment this is hypothetical, but we can see it coming, and we are looking at our transgender policy. Now, that is not one of Sulaiman's quotes. That is from Robert Smith of the British Boxing Board of Control. So he was asked about this, and he's obviously a few steps behind Sulaiman and the WBC, the board are. But you have to ask the question, how many transgender boxers are there? This may be a stumbling point, because there may only be, well, I don't know, half a dozen transgender pro fighters, in which case they won't be able to have their own division. Or let's say there are 100 over every single weight class in boxing. It's going to be very easy to pick up a world title, isn't it? I'm not talking about the WBC now. And also there's the issue of a transgender male, that is to say someone who was born a woman, fighting a... Well, no, that they would have to fight another transgender male. Yes, we're talking weight classes here, aren't we? Gets a little bit like a minefield, doesn't it? So anyway, yeah, I'm just sort of thinking about this as I'm reading it and musing over it. I think with regard to the WBC, and again, Sulaiman gets a lot of often deserved heat, okay, for some of the decisions that WBC make. However, on this point, I think he deserves credit. And I think WBC deserve credit for being transparent, for saying that, hang on a minute, we're not having, you know, transgender women who used to be men fighting, you know, real women, cisgender women, whatever you want to call them. And I think they deserve a bit of credit for actually addressing the issue, because they haven't buried their head in the sand, which a lot of people in politics, in other areas, in other sports have done, resulting in a sort of fudging of the issue. The WBC have come out and said, this is what we think, this is what we believe, and this is what, you know, it's an ongoing thing. This is why they're talking about a registration policy for 2023, where they gather as many names as, you know, as many pro transgender potential pro fighters, and they're going to talk. So it's evolving. It's evolving, and if you believe in inclusivity, in all those things, you know, in having a level playing field, things are not built overnight. Sometimes they are done by trial and error. I think it's very, very good, very, very promising, and pretty much a relief that Sulaiman and the WBC have come out and said, you know, we're not having a transgender woman, that is to say someone who has the bone structure, bone density, testosterone levels, whatever, of a man going in there with a woman. We're not doing it. I'll repeat that, what Sulaiman said. In boxing, a man fighting a woman must never be accepted regardless of gender change. There should be no grey area around this, and we want to go into it with transparency and the correct decisions. Woman to man or man to woman, transgender change will never be allowed to fight a different gender by birth. I think that is an extremely positive thing from the WBC, and they deserve kudos for saying that. For those that may disagree with my statement just then, or with Sulaiman's statement more importantly, let's say that suddenly Tyson Fury decided he wanted to be a woman. Stranger things have happened. Do you remember Kelly Maloney? So he becomes a woman, or he identifies, big bunny ears, quotation marks, identifies as a woman, and he cuts a swathe through women's boxing, destroying all the female fighters, hospitalising, probably even killing one or two. And he becomes a heavyweight champion of the women's boxing world. I can think of nothing more misogynistic than that. And if you've got a mother or a sister or an aunt or a girlfriend that you care about, wife, whatever, you know, I know it's become fashionable to sort of regard anyone who has any sort of consideration for other people as, you know, woke or whatever. I'm someone who detests woke culture. I don't like it. I could see it coming a mile off from 35 years ago when political correctness was suddenly that seething, insidious thing. And the bastard child of political correctness is woke culture, what they now call woke culture. But at the same time, let's not kid ourselves. There is such a thing as being a good human being. And so I'm all for what Sulaiman and the WBC have said here. They haven't buried their heads in the sand over the issue. They've addressed it head on. They've been transparent. And I think they've come to some good conclusions here. So that's my opinion. Take it or leave it. Disagree with it. Tell me what you think in the comments section. Do you have any opinions? Do you even care about the subject? I'm sure many of you don't. But I always think that it's very, very interesting to see how these things evolve. It's kind of like women's boxing. That's why I like women's boxing so much, because this incarnation of it is growing and it's coming on leaps and bounds. And, you know, a few quantum leaps. I mean, 2022 was great for women's boxing, definitely. There's some huge strides made. It'll be interesting to see whether this transgender boxing thing takes off and whether the transgender lobby are going to say, hang on a minute, no. A transgender man, a transgender woman is a real woman. And never mind that they, you know, were 6'4", they're 6'4", and they spent the first 25 years of their life being called Bernard and had a pair of bollocks and a penis. No. They may still have the bollocks and penis, but they identify as a woman. So put them in with real women. Nah. No. There is inclusion, fairness, level playing field, based in reality, and there is airy-fairy, vain, infantile, childish, fairy tale nonsense. Okay? Never the twain should meet. Okay? Leave your opinions below. Thank you for your time for watching this video. Like, subscribe, like the video, subscribe to the channel, build it up, and we will speak again soon. Enjoy your weekend. Meanwhile, bye-bye for now.